We gotta talk about COVID again? Talking about COVID-19 again. I don't know if you can see, I got my hindsight is 2020 Bernie Sanders shirt on. Let me know what you think about that. So, I had some other videos I was going to do. Already recorded. I was processing them and everything, getting them ready to go. And then this information comes out that the CDC slid into their website, didn't make a big announcement about it or anything like that. And I guess President Trump put it on Twitter, caused a bunch of mixed reactions, and then Twitter takes it down, which is a huge mistake. I don't care what your opinion is, but when you get people who are already skeptical and then the information gets put on the website, like Twitter, and Twitter takes it down, all you're doing is adding fuel to the fire. People that were already skeptical, all you did was confirm their skepticism at that point. So I want to talk about this COVID-19 video because I have a perspective that I want to offer, and I want to ask some questions that you should think about. So you got people that are polarized, right? On both sides of the fence. People that are downplaying the virus and people that are making it seem like you can't even go outside without getting sick and dying. And there are people who actually took this information that the CDC just released and treated it the same way. I watched doctors. I think I've watched like 3 or 4 YouTube videos of doctors coming, making videos on YouTube about this information, saying that this doesn't mean anything. If you're looking at this information, there's one doctor, I forgot his name. I don't even want to put his name out there, but he's very, you can tell he's very sharply opinionated in his delivery when he says things. And he's a bald guy. But he pretty much, the way he delivered it is, if you look at this information and you see it as an indicator that the disease is not as severe as people are making it out to be, then you're stupid. You're too stupid to read the data, so you shouldn't even look at that data because you're too ignorant and not educated enough to process what you're looking at. That is pretty much the way he laid that out in a more eloquent fashion. So, before I even get into this, I'm going to throw my credentials out there again, right? Registered respiratory therapist, almost in the healthcare field for 15 years, and I have had direct experience with taking care of COVID-19 patients, positive COVID-19 patients, direct experience, exposure, frontline worker, whatever. Okay, with that out of the way, took some notes. I downloaded all the information from the CDC website to my laptop and I broke it down by category. I looked at everything. So I'm going to use that one doctor as an example. So what he was pretty much saying is that you can't look at the comorbidities and say that, oh, more people, because the argument ultimately is that people are dying with COVID-19 and not of COVID-19. That's the argument. So since the United States in our current situation is so divided and divisive about everything, we're talking about people, medicine, and illnesses. Why can't it be both? Why can't it be both? And judging by the death certificate information that I'm looking at, it seems like that's exactly what it is both. And I already told everybody on my previous video that I'm not saying that people aren't dying of COVID-19. I'm just saying those numbers are dramatically inflated. And I believe that what I looked at on this spreadsheet proves just that. I'm not going to even sit there and say that 6% number is accurate. So, okay, let me rephrase that. If you look at the information states that roughly 6% or only 6% of the people that died with COVID-19 have been identified on their death certificate as only having COVID-19, which means there were no other lying diseases, no other processes. Now you got to remember, this information is coming from hospitals all over the world, not all over the country, from hospitals all over the country. And every hospital has its own business practices and how they code stuff. So there might be some delineation on how that stuff is coded. There's a standard, coding procedure, but I'm just saying it's not going to be an exact protocol for every hospital and treatment facility across the United States. That's all I'm saying. So there could have been a group of patients that passed away, and on their death certificate, all it said was COVID-19, but maybe they just didn't put anything else on there. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. Because like I said, I've worked in the hospitals, I've seen coding before, I've seen how it works and how it happens. So, what do we know about COVID-19? COVID-19 specifically is what they would like to call a respiratory related disease. Now I know that there are doctors out there trying to speculate that now it causes all these other things going on, and now you have these concerns that even after you fully recovered, now you have a fear of some other illness setting in. You know what? I'm not even worried about all that. The way that they're selling this thing now, they're making it seem like everything that you feel inside your body other than 100% normal could be COVID-19 related. Honestly, ask yourself, when do you ever wake up and feel 100% normal? Anyways, so on the CDC website, they have accountability for 153,000 deaths, COVID-19 related deaths. So remember, right now, the argument is whether are we dying with COVID-19 or are we dying of COVID-19? And then, I understand, before I even get into all this, the people that have their opinion are going to have their opinion, straight up. I'm making this almost for my peace of mind, just to say I delivered it out there. Because I know that no matter what I say, right there on the CDC website, it doesn't matter. They're going to argue their position until the end of time. So now we know it's a respiratory illness, right? Respiratory-based illness. That is what I'm going with because that is what I've seen predominantly the most of so far. So, and the death certificates, right? So the death certificates, the way a death certificate is supposed to read is not what led up to that person's death, but the overall cause of the death. So it'll be like, okay, so primary cause, the first thing lists will be COVID-19, and then it'll be like, the comorbidities, that these are the things that this other person had, and then it should say, this is the primary cause, but these other things are the contributing factors of why they died. Something along those lines, right? So I want to point out something. First and foremost, that I was wondering the entire time, and I would check on the CDC website and I just wouldn't see it. I'm like, well, where's this information at? It wasn't there. And now it's there. So, out of the 153,000 people who have died with COVID-19, 64,465 also tested positive for influenza, and they had pneumonia. Right off the top, I nearly sliced that death toll in half with people that had the flu. Now we know, COVID-19 is new. The flu was not. We know for a fact that the flu takes people out like nobody's business. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care how healthy you are. It takes people on all ends of the spectrum and everything in between. So that when you give me a death count of 153,000 deaths and 64,000 of those were positive for influenza, you want me to go based on that they died from COVID-19, or is there a higher likelihood that they died from the flu? I'm not telling you what to believe, but you use your best judgment. You tell me. Moving on. Chronic respiratory disease. Now, I'm a respiratory therapist. Chronic lower respiratory disease. 12,947 deaths. Chronic means that that person had that disease process for a while. More likely some kind of COPD, emphysema, something along those lines. That is what led to that person's death. That means that that person had that well before they tested positive for COVID-19. And is it a very strong likelihood that even when they had COVID-19, them catching it could have absolutely exacerbated their condition because they already had a chronic lung disease. But a chronic lung disease is just that. It was a disease process that was killing that individual long before they had COVID-19. So, again, I'm not telling you what to believe, but did that person die with COVID-19 or did they die of COVID-19? If I was a rationally thinking individual, I would say that this person died with chronic lower respiratory disease exacerbated by COVID-19. That makes sense to me. And that puts our death toll to 76,000 people. Let's move on. Hypertensive disease. Okay. Now there's arguments. They're like, okay, so we already know, don't even get into all that because we know that COVID-19 is especially, attentive to the population that already have underlying illnesses and immunocompromised. Isn't that anything? Am I right or am I wrong? Isn't that anything? Is that anything? So if you tell me that somebody is hypertensive, that's 33,153. They have hypertension issues. Okay. An ischemic heart disease, 16,963. Cardiac arrest, 19,432. Cardiac arrhythmia, 9,254. Now, all of these things that are heart related. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say yay or nay. But what I'm telling you is that there was a possibility that that person had a heart condition that had absolutely nothing to do with COVID-19. Now, understand clearly what I'm trying to say. I am saying that that person could have died purely of their heart-related condition and just tested positive for COVID-19. Not even that them having COVID-19 exacerbated their pre-existing heart conditions. I'm saying that they had a heart condition and they died strictly of that heart condition and they just happened to test positive for COVID-19 as well. Heart failure, 10,051. Cerebral vascular disease. Aneurysm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember that being on the list anywhere of people dying of an aneurysm from COVID-19. How many people died from cerebral vascular disease? 7,244. So me being on the generous side of the fence, we're up 60, 70. We're all over 80,000. In my humble personal medical professional opinion, that we're at over 80,000 that have a high likelihood to have just died from what they had, and it had absolutely nothing to do with COVID-19. Because like I said, I was being generous. The heart-related stuff, it's a yay or nay. they had a heart issue. They could have been asymptomatic from COVID-19 and died from that heart issue and been positive for COVID-19. So I'm not going to debate that, because it could have been either or. But I just want you to put in your head that there's a possibility. Other diseases of the circulatory system. There's a lot of them. I'm not even going to go down the list. 8,236. Now, I bring this up because diseases of the circulatory system can kill you. Now, we don't know anything about COVID-19 causing any kind of circulatory disease. But that's yay or nay. Again, just like the cardiovascular. Could be, maybe not. The possibility is there. Sepsis. Sepsis is another one. People die from sepsis in the hospital all the time. People will walk through the hospital doors on their own 2 feet, seemingly fine, and die from sepsis in the hospital 2 weeks later. And the medical staff, hands up in the air, don't really know, where it stemmed from, how it started, and how that person spiraled down so fast. Because when sepsis sets in, it's a quick process. How many we got for sepsis? 13,222. Could COVID be a contributing factor of that? Sure it can. But it's also just as equally likely that it wasn't anything to do with COVID-19. Malignant neoplasm. Cancer. 7,003. Now, is it fair to say that the person that has a COVID-19 on their death certificate had a secondary comorbidity death listed as cancer? If we're going to call them a COVID-19 death, they were dying from cancer. They weren't dying from COVID-19. Now, again, same thing. Is it possible? Is it possible that that person had cancer? They were already immunocompromised and COVID-19 got them, and then it made everything worse, and it caused the downward spiral to spiral down even quicker. Absolutely. I'll give you that. But again, put in your mind, maybe not. Diabetes. We already know, if you're a poor managed diabetic, your immune system is not where it should be anyways. I'm not even going to go into that one. Obesity, same thing. So diabetes, 24,218. Obesity, 5,160. Alzheimer's, old timers, 5,290. I don't care what you say. I don't care what your argument is. If you went into the hospital and you had Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's kills people. People die from it. It's a terminal illness. COVID, I don't care what you say. I don't care what the argument is. You're going to have to show me some scientific proof of the methodology inside the body on how that works. That COVID-19 leads to the death of somebody that already had Alzheimer's. That takes us up to almost 90,000 people with questionable deaths. Questionable COVID-19 related deaths, I should say. Vascular unspecified dementia, 17,587. Renal failure, 12,897. Unconditional poisoning, my apologies. Intentional and unintentional poisoning, 4,794. Again, That takes us, I didn't even do the exact math. That was just rounding out, and then being generous about it. That takes us to about 100,000 people who probably just died with whatever they had, and it had nothing to do with COVID-19. I don't care what those other doctors are saying. I don't care. Because those doctors are going to try to make you feel stupid for trying to believe that somebody could have possibly went to the hospital and tested positive COVID-19, but actually just died from their chronic illnesses. That scares me. You need to understand, and you need to believe, if you feel in your heart of hearts that it's kind of weird that somebody goes in with the flu. Like I said, we know the flu kills people. And I don't want to, I'm not even trying to make this video that long, but I knew this one was going to drag out because I'm tired of seeing this. I'm tired of seeing this. This is so old. And we know, I'm trying to give the CDC the benefit of the doubt. And they said, they're getting this information from hospitals all over the country. So it takes a while to get the data in and process it. And that's why it took so long to post the numbers like this and stuff. All right, fine. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that that's a possibility. But now that we have this information, what are we going to do? We're going to still sit here and lock everything down? Like I said, I'm going on record. I'm not going to even sit there and be like, oh yeah, 6%. It's the 6%. Nah, I am saying right down in the middle that there's enough information right there. If you look into disease processes and look at how things affect the body and how people typically die from those things, that even if COVID-19 is a deadly disease, it's not damn near as deadly as they made it out to be. And it is 100% more deadly. Don't quote me on that because I know somebody's going to hear that and they're going to like, oh, he said 100%. The influenza is much more deadly than COVID-19. I honestly believe that. We never shut anything down for influenza. We never applied masks for influenza. We never talked about mass vaccination for influenza. We want you to get it for your safety, but there was no talk about no kind of mandate on that. And then when you see this data, it really has to make you wonder what's really going on. Why are they doing this? And then they want to sit there and try to blame the president. You can't blame the president. You want to. I know you want to. Because you want to point your finger at somebody and try to say it's his fault. And I've always said it before the president even took office. I said, you know what? You know who the president is? The president is somebody for people to point their finger at when they're upset about something. That's it. That's it. He has some power. He has some influence. But, come on now. He was put in a position that even at the very beginning, when he had intel that this thing wasn't as bad as it was being made out to be, the media and the health organizations played it down, then played it up. He has to roll with the punches. He has no choice. He has to roll with the punches. He has to try to play. He always has to try to play the middle ground somewhere on most things. And then when it comes to a disease, a new disease, he doesn't want to step too far in one direction, because if he's wrong, then he's going to get crucified for it. And a lot of people that don't like him, they're going to crucify him no matter what he does anyways. So I bet you, hindsight, thinking back, he probably would have just said, screw it. We're not doing anything. We're just going to continue business as usual. You know what I think? I think the results probably would have been about the same. I think that you probably would have had less deaths. I'll go on record and say that. I believe that if we never shut down this country when COVID-19 showed up at our doorsteps, we wouldn't have lost as many people as we've lost. As a whole. But anyways, I'm going to stop there because I could talk about this forever, but I want to wrap it up. So, main point of this video, I want you to think about this information. The doctors that are out there trying to say, look, it's only 6%, they might not be right. The doctors that are saying, hey, no, don't look at that information and you're too stupid to understand it. That's not what it means at all. Don't listen to them either. People on polar ends of the spectrum are never right. Never. You have to bring it somewhere in the middle. And even in the middle, COVID-19 is nothing worth shutting this country down over.